Hello, and welcome to another episode of So Here's the Thing. I am your host, Marquis, and before we get started, I don't know what episode this is going to wind up being, but this season has been a long time coming. For those of you who know me, you know that I've had this podcast for about 5 years now. This is its third season, and it started out as many podcasts did during the pandemic when people were looking for something to do, making their voices heard, and sort of locked in. And it was just me and my best friend at the time, Paul, and you know Paul.
Yes.
So we'll get to Paul in a second. Maybe not. But my best friend at the time decided we just wanted to just talk to people, and he wound up dropping off. But I wound up, just talking to friends of mine for the first season who had different backgrounds from my own. Right. So I'm from Jersey. I grew up in sort of a lower middle class, I guess, public schools, etc.
Right.
Certain things. Other people grew up in the country. One of the people who was in the first season grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. Another person grew up as a Mormon. Another person, and these are not my experiences. But I was just like, listen, he said, this is my friend, and I don't know a thing about you. Wow, this is what you live through? Okay, so, wow. It should have been called, so the name of the podcast is called So Here's the Thing, but it should have been called You Think You Know Somebody.
I think that's thinking. I think I've heard that somewhere.
Well,
But
it
yeah.
probably is. I mean, what's not taken at this point. But,
I like some music.
yeah, so here's the thing. Because it's something that I say all the time, and it leads into what the main point is. So, as I said before we get started, I just wanted to thank my listeners, thank my viewers, hopefully, if we do wind up having this in video form, for following me on my journey. And I want to, I'm starting my own business. I've started my own business, Strategy to Stage, and one of the things that I'm finding in my journey of starting a business is that there are so many people out there whose voices deserve to be heard, they want to be heard. People will come to me and say, I have a story, right? I want to tell my story, right? And so then I talk to them, consult with them. I'm like, wow, okay, so you have 700 stories that you are trying to get through all at the same time, right? And so...
You hadn't even talked to me yet. How you telling my part of the story? You hadn't even gotten to me yet.
We all have 700 stories. 700.
And then some.
And then some. And so part of the business that I'm doing is helping people to create context around those stories, right? So that it makes sense and it's not just random. But also, if you're trying to make a point, if the stove is hot, you can't just say to somebody, that stove will burn you, right? You have to say to them, hey, I just touched that stove and it was hot, so it'll probably burn you. You might want to watch out. And even then, they might not.
Some people are still gonna think, like my dad used to say, some folks don't believe fat is greasy until they touch it. That's all Louisiana country saying.
Listen, so you're from Louisiana?
Yes.
So. We'll talk about that. So I say all that to say thank you for following me on this journey. Stay tuned, share, like the podcast, share it with people, etc., etc. What I'm doing in this third season is more of the same. More of what I love is just talking to my friends and the people who I know who love me, and getting to know them a bit more, and getting them. I really just want to amplify you all's voices, and no voice has been. More sort of melodious in the 16, 17 years that I've known you than my guest today, which is Shemika Berry. I'm sorry, listen, and this is what we had this conversation. Literally, I knew her as Shemika Berry, and now I know her as Shemika Renee. Yes. Shemika Renee is her name, and I will let her introduce myself before I bumble and fumble this any longer. So, Shemika, introduce yourself.
So, I am Shemika Renee. I am an actress, a costumer, a hair and makeup artist, designer. I love theater. I'm into cosplay. I like most things sci-fi. We can get into that because I discovered for years I thought I was a huge sci-fi fan of various fandoms, And then I realized I'm a huge character and aesthetic fan of sci-fi and of fantasy, but some of the storylines kind of bore me. And
That's interesting. Well, talk about that. And I've known you for years. I don't know that. Oh.
well, that was a recent self-discovery within the last couple of years. My biggest driving force now, I wouldn't even say career-wise because it's more of a calling, is my one-woman show, The Stories Living History.
Yes.
And
so say it for the people who are listening very slowly, very clearly.
It is Ms. Stories Living History. That is MS Stories possessive, so apostrophe S, not plural, living history. Because history doesn't have to be a mystery if you learn it. So you get it, Ms. Story, mystery, it's a pun. I love it.
I love it.
And so over the years, and we'll get into it more later, I'm sure, but I have a list of over 30 women in African American history that I portray. And the list is continuously growing as I learn more and more about women whose voices have been silenced and whose names have been erased from history. And I dress as them and I tell their story in first person narration to make history come alive, so that there are people who like lectures, there are people who enjoy researching and reading history books, but these people are more than just names or words on a page. They're more than just a footnote. They were living, breathing people with hopes and dreams and successes and failures and families and enemies and frenemies and friends. And so when people come to my show or come to an event where I perform as one of these women, they get a sense that, oh wait, this was a real person. And even there are times when I portray women who are not listed in history. I have a character that I've named Ancestor. She represents the women who were not in a position to do something that was considered extraordinary enough to be listed in a history book, like Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, or Rosa Parks. But they lived and they breathed, and they were our great, 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 great grandmothers, and our great, great, great aunts, and our second, and third, fourth, fifth, sixth, vice moved cousins.
Yeah.
And they deserve to be remembered. If we know their names, they deserve to have their names spoken. And that is what my calling is, to bring these stories to life.
So, first of all, thank you for sharing that with me. I have so many questions, and I know quite a bit about it. So, I still have questions. First of all, what an honor, what a testament, what a joy it is to be in the presence of somebody who has discovered their calling and has sort of honed in on it in such a way, right? Not all of us, right, know what our calling is. I discovered my calling many years ago, but even now I'm still sort of refining it, right? I figured out many years ago that my job here is to tell stories and to help people tell stories, right? The best way I do that is through acting, right? I'm a performer, etc. But like, there have been so many instances where I found that the more that I talk to people and the more that I become self-aware and sort of do some introspective work, the more I realize the pattern of what people are telling. People like being around me because I ask them the right questions to get them to the story. Right?
You pull the string. So
yes.
So a few years ago, realized that I have a lot of ideas and thoughts that are in my head. And the best way to articulate it is, it's like having a bunch of yarn and it's all compacted together. And the whole ball of yarn is all intertwined, and it's not a nicely formed, neat ball. It's just a jumbled mess. And sometimes there are people who will ask me questions or will ask other people who have similar experiences questions, and it's like pulling the yarn or pulling the thread. And as you are presented with an opportunity to express what is inside your head, and the more you talk it out, the more concrete it becomes, the more solidified it becomes. Like you're winding this yarn together to make it neat and presentable and understandable.
Yes.
And so that is a talent and a gift that you have.
It's
to pull the thread.
that I didn't recognize as
A gift?
I knew it as a gift, but I didn't think of it as particularly marketable. You know, like, oh, this is something I can do with my friends.
You thought you were just curious.
Just like, oh, and my friends like me for it, but whatever. But now I'm like, oh, this is something that people need. And when I see people need it, there are people in the world who don't know how to tell us, who don't know even how to really form like the bones of a beginning, middle, end. They're like they just go right to the end. And so my job is to be like, okay. And when I say my job, my calling, my reason is, what is this about? Much to your point, like you have to give me the whole enchilada because otherwise it's
a punchline, and if you don't have any build up, you just sit there with take my wife, please.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So my first question is, when did Miss Story as a living entity get started? Like as a fully, like this is she.
This is she.
Yes.
There's a little backstory there.
Absolutely. You know I'm here for a story.
So here's the thing.
Yes.
I have always loved the fashion of Era's pants. But it started off with when I was a little girl. I believe I was in third grade, and I had to do my first book report. And it was going to be an oral presentation. You have to stand in front of the class and talk about this book that we read. So I didn't really know what book I wanted to read, but my favorite TV show at the time was Little House on the Prairie.
Little House. Let me pause you for just 1 second. I want to make sure that our mics are picking this up. So speak up a little bit more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite TV show. I wanted to be Laura Ingalls more than
Laura Ingalls.
Listen,
this little white girl. What's that?
Look, there were no little black girls on the show. Hester Prynne didn't come on to like season 4, and I was real excited to see a black woman who wasn't a slave on a TV show like that. We'll get to that.
So let me pause you for one more second. My audience is broad.
Yes.
And so explain what Little House on the Prairie is just for a second. And they'll look it up, but you know.
Yes, yes. So Little House on the Prairie was a TV show that was created based off of a series of books by Laura Ingalls Wilder. At this time, I only knew about the TV show. It was about a family during the homesteading phase of American history. So after the Civil War, Reconstruction, but in the Midwest, like Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Yes.
Area.
There was electricity.
Yes.
But
that happened within the series of the show, because I remember when they got telephones, etc. So
they give you a time.
Late 1800s.
Okay.
So I only knew it as a TV show. My mother told me it started out as a series of books.
And this is who you wanted to be, a little girl from the 1800s.
I wanted to wear her calico dress and the bonnet. I just thought it was so cute.
If I have better editing skills, and I might, maybe we can edit a picture of.
Possibly,
yes.
Yeah. You can pull a picture of Laura Ingalls Wilder. Do the Melissa Gilbert version.
Okay.
And so I read the book. Was very surprised. Spoiler alert! That one of the villains in the TV show was actually very nice in real life. So Mrs. Olsen, who was the mean shopkeeper, rich lady who was just horrible to everybody with the horrible daughter Nellie. Nellie was as bad.
Oh,
Nellie was horrible.
Nellie was the worst.
She was the worst. But
she's the original problem child. Or
yes,
but
Mrs. Olsen in the books and in real life was actually very nice. They just changed her to make her villainous just for dramatic purposes for TV.
Yeah.
So I read the book and I asked my mom. My mother wasn't necessarily a seamstress, but she knew how to sew really, really well. So I asked her to make me the costume. I asked my teacher in the class, "Can I dress up like her?" And all the other kids were looking at me like, "You gonna make us have to do more for this report because of your brilliant ideas." But the teacher told me that I could, and so my mom made the dress for me, and I gave my report. The next year, I had to do a Black History report, and my mom told me about Shirley Chisholm. I was just enthralled that a Black woman. Now, mind you, I'm a little girl in 1985, hearing about this from my mother.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if we want to tell what year this was to age or what have you.
Listen, I am proudly a bicentennial baby. I will be celebrating my big 50 next year, so I'm very excited.
Wow! Congratulations!
Thank you.
Look at her. See her. Look at her. Absolutely flawless. Keep going.
And so she told me about Shirley Chisholm, who was the first Black woman who ran to be on the Democratic ticket to run for president. And in my mind, in 1985, I was thinking that was so long ago, but it was really only in 1972. So it hadn't been many years. And she told me about
history seems like
yes,
some
it's
black
very
and white thing.
Yes, it's very compartmentalized as well. So she told me about these wild, bold colors she used to wear. She helped me come up with a costume. When I was in the 8th grade, I had to do a report, and I learned about Phyllis Wheatley, the first woman of African descent who had been kidnapped as a child from a country in Africa and brought to America and enslaved, and became the first woman of African descent to be published in America, poetry. So my mother made a skirt for me, but it was completely historically inaccurate, but you couldn't tell me anything. I was Phyllis Wheatley. And a lot of it spawned from, I like the big dresses and the long flowing dresses.
And if I may,
yes,
it sounds like you really did have a mother and an art system, and a Black history art system in particular, that sort of cultivated this.
Yes.
Listen, if I told my mother I wanted to be Phyllis Wheatley,
listen, my mom went into her material stash. We didn't have, and this is before the internet, so there were no real pictures of Phyllis Wheatley. Right. But I remember to this day, it was this baby blue material with white polka dots, and she put little lace trim on the bottom. She was so proud, and I was so proud. And we laugh and giggle about it now because it was historically not accurate. It was long. It looked like it would more represent a character, like something that Laura's mother would have worn on Little House of Prayer, but I was still very proud of it. I loved it. And so time went on, and I've always been I'm from Louisiana originally. I've always...
in Baton Rouge?
Well, my father is from Southwest Louisiana, so Opelousas, Welsh, Lake Charles area.
Okay.
And
you're saying it like I know.
Yes, it's closer to Texas. It's on the opposite end of the interstate from New Orleans and Baton Rouge, so not from there. Louisiana is more than just New Orleans.
Yes.
Yes. That is a city. It's not even the capital.
Right.
And my dad was Air Force, so I lived all over the world, but my roots are Louisiana. And as time went on, I loved the clothing of the antebellum era, big hoop skirts. I loved the big houses. This wasn't good for our people politically. And I grew up and lived life and started having children. And when my oldest child was in kindergarten 20 years ago, I told this teacher that I wanted to be involved with the schooling, but I didn't want to be that mom that just, sat there and took names while she made photocopies or ran to the office or whatever. And she said, "Well, what would you like to do?" And it was divine inspiration. And I just said, I can dress up as any historical figure and tell their story. And she said, "Oh, I'll take you up on that." And I thought she was just being nice. Like, we're going to go get coffee. And we never go get coffee. A couple of weeks later, she texts me and she says, "Are you still interested in coming to the school to portray a historical figure?" And I said, "Yeah." So I'm thinking, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Sojourner Truth. She asked me to be Johnny Appleseed. Now you laughed at me earlier because I wanted to be Laura Ingalls Walker, but now this teacher wants me to be Johnny Appleseed.
She said it with a straight face.
It's text message. Listen, in the text message, I stopped and looked at my hands. Now, for those of you who cannot see me, I am an African American woman.
Oh my God.
Caramel complected.
Absolutely.
John Chapman, Johnny Appleseed, was a white man.
A whole white man.
A whole white man. And so I literally texted.
Was she so black when you asked?
No,
that's part of it.
No. So I literally texted her back, and she taught all three of my children kindergarten. I literally texted her back, "Do you remember who you texted?" And she said, "I know exactly who I've texted." And I said, "All right, well, if you're game for it, I am." So I found some old pants and cut them off and an oversized shirt, and I popped that bit on top of my head because Johnny Appleseed wore famously tall tales that he walked around with a pot on his head. And I went to the school a couple of weeks later for his birthday, and I walked in and I had the pot on my head, and I said to the children, I had my hair all tucked up, of course. And
what? Keep going, but I'm curious about what was it. I assumed that it was the black part versus the male part that was the trip up. But wait, if there was a trip up.
So I walked into the school and they're all sitting down. It's a Christian school. And I said, now, before I begin my story, I want you all to understand. I'm going to be pretending to be Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed, his real name was John Chapman, was a white man. I clearly am not.
How old are the kids?
They are kindergarten.
Oh, kindergarten. Okay.
And one little child, and mind you, my child is in this sea of kindergartners. So I'm also worried about, is he going to be embarrassed as well?
Of course.
One little child that wasn't mine says, "But you're wearing a pot on your head, so we don't care." And a career was born.
Well, there you go.
They were all in because I was a grown-up willing to put a pot on my head. She asked me to come back the next month, which was in October. I told her I was not going to be Christopher Columbus, but I would be Queen Isabella. And so she was happy with that. And I did Queen Isabella. And then in January, I did Coretta Scott King. And then February, I did Harriet Tubman.
So, which leads to my next question, actually. First of all, thank you for sharing. What kind of pot was it? That wasn't the next question, but I'm curious.
It was just a regular.
Like, what pot could fit in your head? Is what I'm looking at.
Hold on.
That's in my head. I'm like,
Listen.
I probably need like a saucepan.
Listen, it was a saucepan, but we don't have to be unkind about it.
No, you have a lot of hair right now.
Oh, that was a nice thing, Marky. That was a really nice thing. So here's the thing. It was just like that medium-sized saucepan that you make your rice in with the handle.
Yes.
It wasn't like the big stout pot.
No, not a stout.
Because that would have been over my head
Right.
like, who was it, Dumb Donald or one of them from
So,
Bad Albert.
you are really taking this back.
I'm almost 50, man.
My related question, and I asked this about, I'm going to be asking this, I'm finding, of other artists as I'm doing this podcast. In this space, I know for those, we didn't state this, but for those of you who don't know us or me, I know Shemika as a performer first. Then we became friends. Not all performers become friends. Let's say that.
And some performers who have become friends stop being friends.
Yes, and so this is we are friends for real. This is my girl. This is my sister. This is my girl.
Yes, that's my brother.
I may be fast forwarding, but I don't think so. Do you? The first question is: do you only do black characters in Miss Story, right? And two, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but as a performer, as I lean into my 20-some odd year of performing and doing this work as an actor, I more and more, especially nowadays, feel a pull, maybe a responsibility. So when I'm talking about this, to tell black stories, exclusive, not necessarily exclusively, but I've done everything from 42nd Street to the color purple and back again.
Right.
And all the close in between, several times over. So, I'm all over the place. And so I wonder, I guess the first question is, do you only do Black characters in your storytelling history? And two, within the story and with like sort of your broader portfolio, do you feel a full responsibility to tell the stories exclusively or only in Black characters? Does that
So
make sense?
yes, absolutely. And the answer is yes. I
To both.
do to both.
Okay.
So Johnny Appleseed was the only, I think that you could also count Queen Isabella as well, are the only two non-Black historical figures that I have portrayed as. And I have not portrayed them any longer.
Didn't you do, and I might be wrong on this, didn't you do Jackie Kennedy recently?
No.
No? Am I wrong on that?
You are wrong.
Okay.
You may be thinking that because...
Oh, I know what I'm thinking of. Go ahead.
Well, I helped costume Wednesdays in Mississippi, but also I was in Doubt in Newtown Players many years ago. And so that silhouette of costume was reminiscent of Jackie.
That's what I'm thinking.
But no, I've never portrayed any first ladies. I won't portray any I won't portray any historical figure that is still living. Because their story is still being written.
So say that again to the camera.
I don't portray anybody that is still living because their story is still being written. And
so if my first lady, okay.
Listen, I cannot go into a school and say that is who I am, because the children will say, "No, you're not."
No, but if our first lady said I would be honored if you would portray me, you would say, "No, ma'am, your story's still being written."
I don't.
We're talking about Michelle Obama. Just
Yes,
to be clear.
I don't see that happening.
Listen, I'm gonna claim it for you.
Listen, I will cross that bridge when I come to
it.
Okay. And I have had dreams of interacting with the Obamas.
Okay. Listen, it's not that it's not like they're not local. They're around.
That is fair. Yes. So I was going to a lot of schools, and I was doing a lot of historical figures, and a mutual friend of ours complained to me loudly because I would post on Facebook, "This is school I'm going to," and I would send pictures, and then during Black History Month I would post pictures of myself dressed as a historical figure next to the actual figure and a little blurb about them, and then a link to where you could read more about them. February is a really long month when you're trying to do 28 figures and you don't have 28 costumes. You have to be very creative with your photographs. But one of our dear friends...
Keep talking. I'm looking at the camera. Keep talking. Yep, we're good. Keep going.
One of our dear friends who has since now transitioned to a new home, far away, she would tease me and say, "We never get to see any of what you do. You're always performing for schools." And so her name was Nikki. And so I said, "All right, well, one day I'll do something for you adults." And she said, "All right, I'm going to hold you to that." Some other time went past, and I met up with some other people. And originally, the idea for this story was a children's television show. And the people that were going to produce it, we didn't quite see eye to eye because they wanted the focus to be on the child. And the premise of this story is that a young person that has to do a book report, doesn't want to do a book report, doesn't like history. They go to this unconventional bookshop and they meet a bookstore owner, and she presents a book for them and says, "This book will take you on new adventures."
Edit this out. That's okay.
This book will take you on new adventures. And so as the child opens the book, a force of some sort pulls them into the book, and they meet different women in history. And then when they finish meeting this woman or hearing her story and going on an adventure with her, they come out of the book and they're back at the bookstore, and then they may see a shawl or a staff or something that wasn't there before, but that was used by the person on their journey. And they notice that the bookstore owner looks exactly like the historical figure. So in the original conversations with the people who were going to produce it, they want the folks to be a child. They want to have a new actress each time playing a different historical figure. And I said, no, it has to be me. And they said, why? I said, because it's Ms. Story's living history. And it was actually in that moment pulling the thread because I hadn't been able to articulate it before. And so I said, the bookstore owner is Ms. Story.
Right.
She is all of the characters because she's not really meeting Harriet Tubman, not really meeting Sir Gertrude, but she's taken in by the stories as she's going through the pages, like she's really there.
It makes total sense to me. I don't know why this. Who is this that you were talking? Listen, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And so they also passed on. And so when we decided to part ways, I said, I want to take my idea with me.
Yeah.
You've not paid me for it. This is my intellectual property. They didn't fight me on it, so I left with it and immediately did the copyright for His Story's Living History so that nobody can take it from me.
Yeah.
And so I decided to try it out as a stage play, a one-woman show. Let's see if people even care enough. Let's see if people are even interested. So I did my first one during the first weekend of February 2019 down at Indian Head, Black Hawks Theater, and one of the shows was sold out. And when they came backstage and told me, I started to cry. Actually, the first night when I could hear voices in the audience that were not just my children and not just my parents who had flown in, but there were more voices, and I recognized other voices and certain laughter.
So I'm gonna pause you and us in this moment for a couple of reasons. One, I was there, so my sense of the event is unique, but you sort of fast forward, right? So for the people who are out there wanting to do something like what you're doing, right? They want to dress up, they want to entertain kids, they want to impart education, right? You went from I'm gonna do this in my living room, wherever, in whatever small venue, to now I'm in a Black Box Theater. So what, you sort of fast forwarded, like,
yes.
what was the
but let me backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So in answer to the question, yes, the only people that I portray are women of African descent, women that I can realistically look like without me having to change my skin tone with makeup because that's inappropriate. And so I won't do any other figures. I do have plans in the future for other people's histories, stories to be told in conjunction with Miss Story. Miss Story and Friends will be coming soon. And I've talked to a few friends who are other performers who like telling stories and want to have the opportunity to bring their favorite historical figures to life. I want to create an atmosphere and an environment for them to have that opportunity like people have given to me. So because of my interaction in the DMV within the theater community and the various people that I have met, I've ended up on different boards. I've ended up in circles of people who have connections with various theaters that when they were looking for something new and interesting or different, I was afforded the opportunity to perform. So I went to Black Box Theater in Indian Head. I performed at Greenbelt's Arts Community Center. Port Tobacco Players can play at a new town.
What is the DMV?
Within the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. That's right, you're right, because listen, because not the Department of Motor Vehicles, for those of you who are not in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area.
I will tell you that apparently more than half of my listeners, like 56%, are from
overseas.
Ah,
So
understood.
I often have to be like, oh yeah, they're listening from a non-American lens. If that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's I've been afforded the opportunity to share my story and to share the stories of these women. I do feel that I have a responsibility to tell these stories, primarily because I didn't know how my children were going to be taught Black history. Because I wasn't taught enough. When I started researching Harriet Tubman, I had no idea she was from Maryland. I had no idea she was 5'3". I am 5'3". So I didn't know.
You 5'3".
I am 5'3". Yes, I wear a lot of heels.
The person who is one of the most sort of statuesque, towering, glorious figures in my like Black woman life is this one right here. And I think of you as like at least 5'11". Like
Phenomenal cosmic.
Oh,
Itty bitty bitty face.
so I have I don't want to get us too far off track, but a slight thread though is you talked about um doing historical figures, Black women historical figures whom you can reasonably look like. My question, and this is a tough one, particularly for maybe some of my listeners, is do you ever darken your skin?
No.
Not bright, but darken.
No,
Never darken.
I do not.
Mm.
If I
talk about it.
So, for those who cannot see me, I am a African American woman, as I said before, caramel complected, so medium skin tone. Some of the women that I have portrayed are fairer complected than I am, such as Sally Hemings. There are some women who are more darker complected than I am, such as Harriet Tubman. And I will change my hair or head coverings to reflect those various characters, but I won't change my skin tone because it's inappropriate. Blackface is inappropriate regardless of your race. Going whiteface is not a thing. I honor their story through the costuming and telling of the story.
Yeah.
People are hung up on the fact that I am not the same shade of complexion as Sally Hemings. I've already lost them. And there are no documented true photos of her anyway, so you really wouldn't know unless I told you.
So similarly, thank you for that.
Yes.
Do you ever or would you ever, if you were portraying a woman of size, would you, if it related to the story?
No. For example, I portray Stagecoach Mary.
Who's Stagecoach Mary?
Stagecoach Mary. If any of you saw the Netflix movie, The Harder They Fall, she was played by Zazie Beetz. There was a very controversial take on that because she did not look. There is documented photographs of what Stagecoach Mary looked like, Mary Fields. She was a woman who was a Blue Star postal worker. She did not work for the post office, but she was a Blue Star carrier, so they would contract out to carry packages during the 1800s, and she would take the packages to different places. She was off in Montana and in very mountainous regions. But Stagecoach Mary was a very tall, statuesque, large-framed, dark-complected woman. So the celebrity that the celebrity that I feel should play her absolutely is Leslie Jones from Saturday Night Live. She absolutely should play her.
Could she be dramatic? I mean, I don't know.
I
love you, Leslie Jones.
I'm sure she is a performer.
Yeah.
And that is between her acting coaches, and the director.
Yeah.
But as far as physical attributes, Leslie Jones looks more like Stagecoach Mary than I do.
Right, you're 5'3". You are, to my mind, statuesque.
I appreciate that, but
you're,
right. I am not going to get on stilts or make myself tall. I cannot make myself taller. So,
you could.
I could, but
people wear lifts.
That is true, but that's not going to get me to the height of Stagecoach Mary. But I use costuming and vocal changes to represent my idea of how they would have sounded, or how, based on the photographic evidence, if I could buy any of them, I find costume pieces that look like what they would have worn. I determine, based upon the time frame that they lived, the age group that they are in, that I want to portray. So I have done old Harriet with the white hair and the wrinkles. I have done younger Harriet. And I use those methods to determine which point in history I want to pull from to tell their story, either as a flashback or just in their time, present day. And that stems from going to so many elementary schools and so many kindergarten classes. I was born in this year, and then got all the way to, and I died in this year. It was more like instead of me telling it like I was that person, it was more like a
biopic.
Like a biopic or a book report, while I'm dressed up like I did for Laura Ingalls. And one little child one time asked me if I was a ghost.
Huh?
And I said no. And then she asked me if I was an angel, and I said no. And she said,
Are you done?
She said, right, because I'm an angel. She said, well, you said you died.
Oh, wow.
And because she was a kindergarten, she was taking me
literally. Yeah.
And so that informed how I needed to change. I also ended up with 30 characters, 30 figures, because that school that I went to, that was my children's school, as the children were getting older, the teachers for higher grades wanted me to come. So by the time I got to the 4th grade class one year, and I was doing Harriet Tubman, this little girl was sitting in the front row, and she's trying to tell the story with me. Which was, as a performer, so I'm here before. Why are you telling my story?
But listen. The fact that listen.
Right. So I was like, shh, don't tell. So I handled it. And then at the end, they have a question and answer session. And so I said, I have a question. I said, why do you keep trying to tell my story with me? And this little girl, with all of the respect and love in her heart, said, I've seen you 4 times. You've come to my class each year since I was in kindergarten. I know these stories, and we love it when you come, which touched my heart. But it made me realize I was doing those children a disservice. I looked around the room.
Were they all the same children?
They were all, because it was the same. Like it was like,
listen, that's not there.
Right, it's not there. I mean, there were new kids coming in and out, but it wasn't, because the teachers would ask me, can you come do Harriet Tubman on this day? Can you do Rosa Parks on this day? I looked around the room. You know how they have in America, they have on the classroom walls, they'll have like poster boards of famous African Americans during Black History Month. And I realized that every woman that was on that standard poster that is in every classroom, I had done. So I wasn't teaching the children anything that they didn't already know.
Oh, wow.
So the next year when it came back.
So they can have like, I don't know, Venus Williams or like
well, it was the
historical.
It was the historical group. It was Mary McLeod Bethune, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Sojourner Truth. That was about it. Yeah. So the next year that I came back, I came in there, I had high boots. I had a helmet on, I had a scarf, a brown jacket, these pants. And I walked in and I said, Bonjour, je m'appelle Bessie Coleman. And the little girl was sitting right in the front. She said, I don't know her. I said, no.
Listen, I got you this time, you little
got you. But even the teachers would write notes and Googling, because they had never heard of Bessie Coleman, the first African American and Indigenous woman to get her international pilot's license 6 months before Amelia Earhart got hers. But I told that little girl years later, right around the pandemic, because by that point she was middle school. She came up to me, she saw me in Walmart. She said, do you remember me? And I said, I absolutely remember you. And I gave her a hug and I said, I want to thank you. And she said, why? I said, do you remember when you were in about the 4th grade trying to tell my story with me? She said, yes, I'm sorry. I said, don't be. I said, because you challenged me. The next year when I came back with 4 historical figures you would never heard of, had you? She said, I haven't. I said, because I realized I was doing you all a disservice by telling them the same stories of the same women you were always hearing about. So I challenged myself to find women you didn't know about because I didn't know about them. And that's why I have over 30 men.
So I'm going to pause for 1 second just to look at the camera to make sure we are good on time. We're good on time. Question for you. Couple questions. The main reason that, not the main reason, but the main reason I keep looking at the camera is that there's so much material that I want to get to, and I want to make sure that the camera doesn't run out of battery, but two, that we don't run out of time.
Yes.
So that said, I'm going to rapid fire some of these questions,
Okay.
and some of them will do a deep dive. One. Sorry for my listeners, but you know who I am. So when I came to the inaugural event, as I see it,
Which it was.
I mean, you know, there was.
Right. I had only done it for school. This was the first time I did it for adults
Right.
that were not educators after school, and it was the first time for a paying audience on a stage by myself, directed by our dear friend Nikki.
Yes.
Who I referenced before.
So a couple things. One, I said to you then, and I say to you now, and I don't. This is a less deep dive question, but I would want it to be a deep dive question. Is there ever a plan or room for a Mr. Story? Because, you know, I said this to you then, and I said, listen, where's the Mr. Story? Not that he has to be with her, but
right.
You know.
So
Mr. Story, living history.
So Ms. Story's living history is copyrighted.
Yes. Okay.
And Ms. Story is a pun of mystery. So
Yes.
Mr. Story doesn't.
Well, listen.
It doesn't roll typically off the tongue.
Right.
However, like I said, I do have plans to eventually expand and create. Right now, it's a series of monologues where I dress as. So in Miss Story's Living History, in the 2-hour performance, I dress as 7 different historical women in a 2-hour time frame. So complete costume changes, there are sound effects, etc. But I eventually want to get to a Miss Story and Friends where perhaps Harriet Tubman has a conversation with Frederick Douglass. Or even, I would even talk to a few people for different ideas. Kind of almost like a talk show panel type of situation where Miss Story is interviewing people in history, and so there's a panel of people who maybe otherwise would not have come together, or perhaps they did come together and people don't realize it and don't know. We were talking before about how history is compartmentalized and think about it as black and white.
Yeah.
I tell people history is taught wrong. It's taught mathematically. It's all about how much money was earned, how much land transpired, how many people's lives were lost, what year did something happen about the scene. The timeline my head might spin around. But there are connections that people don't think about, relationships. People knew each other that people don't realize, or were born at the same time period.
Yeah.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Anne Frank were the same age.
Right.
They were born the same year, but we only think of her as a 14-year-old little girl, and we don't think of him as a 39-year-old man.
Who had no connection, didn't think about each other. Who knows if he was inspired by her, him by her, she by him? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, I don't think she could have, because she was 14. He wasn't 14. Yeah, but I know what you're saying. Yes.
Not in that instance.
Yes.
But yes.
Right. But if you were to think about if the world was different, if they had all been the same nationality, because we don't think of them in the same age bracket, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Anne Frank, Queen Elizabeth, and Betty White would have all been in the same elementary school together because they were all in the same age bracket. And so that is the type of thing that I want to show and be able to open up the door for other performers who either want to branch out into historical performance or want to dabble in it, or want to just come hang out and perform with me. Having those opportunities, like I said, people have opened doors for me. As those doors open for me, I want to extend my hand to my fellow performers.
And I appreciate that. One of the things that I
want to make sure that I sort of impart, as I ask that question about Mr. Story, right?
You don't have to come up with another name, my friend.
Here's here's the idea, right? The idea is that from the moment that I saw Miss Story, I was so captivated with the idea that here's this black woman, I granted, here's this black woman who is putting all of her energy into sort of embodying, literally, right? The history of my ancestors and my ancestors' ancestors. Um, not for billions of dollars a year. Not for anything else except that there was a need for her children, right? And there's a need for the sort of the broader community. As I think about myself as a performer, but sort of at large, there is a sort of a similarly um, a similar sort of a
Laugh.
gap, right,
Mhm.
of education of black men.
Yes.
And so
There is more information out there on black men than there are black women, but I see where you're going.
Yes, absolutely there is.
Yes.
But there isn't anybody that I know of who is doing quite something like a Miss Story study history
Right, and
that I know of.
right, and same for even with Miss Story, I know that there are performers who, I know there are men performers who specialize in Frederick Douglass. I know there are women performers who specialize in Harriet Tubman,
Right.
or they specialize in a specific historical figure. They've got the costumes, they've done the research, they've got the voices and the vocal mannerisms and all of that. To my knowledge, I am one of the few nationwide who portrays more than one historical figure.
Mm.
I am one of the few in the state of Maryland, Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. that portrays more than one Black historical female figure person. And I know that because oftentimes when other museums or an event calls for the request for somebody to portray an enslaved woman or a specific woman in history, often my name is brought up. Because there have been other women in other places that I have worked that have periodically taken on the mantle of playing these different women. And for whatever reason, life, social injustice feelings, burnout, other opportunities, they have stepped away from the apron. And I have not felt that pull. In fact, I felt the pull stronger. I've had friends who are very dear to me be very transparent with me and say that what I do initially at the top of the conversation, that what I do offended them. And I asked them why. I said, because there are so many other stories to be told. Why do you focus on, in the words that were used, the slave story? And I said, well, they deserve to have their stories told. And I don't shuck and jive. I don't make a caricature of them. I make them as real as I can. I do modify the visceral emotion that I portray depending on the audience. I have an audience of 5-year-olds. I'm not going to scare them to death by screaming, "Give me back my son." But if it's all adults and the environment and the performance and the situation calls for it, then I'm going to be more visceral in my emotional reaction. And I take it as it's a calling. I take it very seriously, and I'm humbled that people ask me to do it. I tell people that our ancestors were not enslaved because they were bad people. It was bad that people enslaved them. And we have to remember that they endured some of the most horrible atrocities. My fourth great grandmother was enslaved.
Mm.
When I and I say enslaved when I am either Shemika or when I'm dressed as Miss Story, because they were more than just calling them a slave reduced them to their circumstance.
Right.
They were midwives, they were stonemasons, they were carpenters, they were whatever skill set they had, and they were enslaved. The difference is when I portray somebody that's enslaved, it's a costume. I have the privilege to take the costume off and to go home. My ancestors didn't, and that's why I did.
So we're probably going to run low on time, but there are a number of things that I want to make sure that we touch on.
We'll just have to make it a part two.
We just have to make it a part two. This is so general. Because you are such a busy person, I only have you for a brief amount of time. My recordings generally go hours long and then I cut it. So I'm gonna rapid fire these things and then you actually decide which direction you want to go.
Okay.
Because there's a lot that we can go into, and then there's stuff I sent you, and we're totally off.
Yes.
I love this. So thank you.
So here's the thing.
So here's the thing.
You never know what's gonna happen.
The first one is I'm gonna just rapid fire.
Okay.
So, I want to talk about as an artist how you protect yourself in moments of I'm really about to portray this enslaved person. This person went through a thing, whatever the thing is. How do you talk about you can put the costume, put the character on. How do you come out of it? That's part one.
Okay.
I'm gonna and then you decide which.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna ask a question and I answer. Ask a question, I answer.
I'm gonna say all the things, and then you decide which one.
I'm not gonna remember by the time you get to number three.
I'll remember.
Okay.
Part two is Nikki.
We love her. We love her, and that's where we're gonna go with that. We love her.
I'm going to talk about it, so that's not even an option.
Okay.
So
I'm trying to
just prepare yourself. If you don't want to, if you because she was such a special person, to me I can't help myself, but
Understood.
I understand that each person their journey is their own. So I'm just saying that out loud.
Miss Story's living history
Yeah.
is largely what it is because of Nikki. She was my first director. She helped me break through the walls of some of the struggles that I was having with portraying these people, and even her helping me how I framed telling the stories and asking me questions that I had never thought of as these figures to make them more real too. So I will be forever grateful to Nikki. She moved to New York and then she moved to heaven, and I was like, girl, if you didn't want to be my director no more, you could have just said that you didn't have to move all the way to heaven. And I think she would laugh at me. I could hear her laughing now.
She said I hung up a laugh. She would snort sometimes.
Yes. Oh, the snort. The
So
snort.
when we're talking about Nikki, I gotta talk about her for a second. The third thing is at the top of where we started. One of the things that how I asked you to introduce yourself. This is what I did. I asked you to introduce yourself, and you listed a number of things about yourself. One of the things that I most love about you is your motherhood, right? And your kids, and your whole mom journey. So I want to make sure that we talk about the kids for a half a second, if you don't mind. And then two, the last thing I wanted to make sure that I touch on, if we have time, is sort of a call to action, I guess you could say, right? So I'm framing all of this, and I'll recap all of them.
Because I don't remember the first one already.
Yeah, I know.
I'm almost 50, y'all. It's a thing.
The last one is about a call to action. It's about, as a performer, as a person who I admire, revere, respect about, as a person who is going about their life, shining their light in this world, in a dimmer world. It's not dark, it's dim. Particularly here in America in November 2025. How do you, sort of like continue that and create community within the life?
I slide under the radar because they see me as a performer. I'm an entertainer. And Ms. Stories Living History doesn't denote whose history. So I actually have plans I can expand for world history. I can do folk tales. It's living history. So there are times when I talk about people that know I may not be able to represent, for example, Mary Todd Lincoln, but as Elizabeth Keckley, who was her seamstress and confidant, I can speak of her. So I can still share stories of other people and share their truths, because part of what I do is the stories spell myths. And I can't give you all my secrets because I want y'all to come out and see the shows. But I dispel myths and so even with that, with other people that I wouldn't be able to portray or that I won't portray, love Hamilton, love what they have done, and that is for them. The women that were in that show, while being played by women of color, their historical figures were not women of color. And so I find it important to portray women of color.
So I'm going to wrap them up. So the four things are, I almost forgot the third, I might have, but I'm going to go with the first two. First one is putting on the character and taking out.
Yes, I'd like to delve into that one.
Second one is
Yes. Well, I covered my part of Nikki.
So,
and I didn't cry.
I have to
because
talk
I'm a
about
big
Nikki
girl.
for like a couple minutes. Listen, it's okay.
No, I'm holding it in. I'm
Listen.
holding it in.
The third one, I just forgot. The fourth one was a call to action. The third one was,
Motherhood.
yes, motherhood. Talk about the kids. So, because it's your podcast, it's your episode, I'm going to leave Nikki for maybe the end.
Okay. So, I can kind of like merge some of them together. So people have asked me, how is it that I'm able to make these women, especially when I portray an enslaved woman who has lost her son, being sold away, how am I able to make her real? And I say it's very easy. I'm the mother of Black children in America. And my children are 26, 20, and 18.
26?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And the 20-year-old turns 21 next month.
Oh my God. Another one they made baby.
Yes, literally. And so I may not have the fear of my children being sold away in slavery, but I have a motherly concern for their safety being Black in America. And yes, I pray for them and I pray over them. I still am a mother and I still have concerns.
Yeah.
And I let myself get to the edge and I teeter because I want the raw emotion of these women and their lives to resonate. I want it to be real. I don't want it to come off as a rote memorization. At the same time, if I go too far in, because I connect with each woman that I portray in some ways. Some of them are mothers, some of them are wives, some of them are seamstresses, some of them have flown planes, some of them were in the military. And I have experiences in all of those. So I don't let myself get so far that my emotion...
You are a veteran. We didn't talk about that.
Yes, I am an Air Force veteran.
Yes.
I don't let the emotion take me so far in. I don't drop so far into character that I can't pull myself down. Miss Story is always on the bridge, ready to pull the character back up. And so that is what I...
If I may.
Yes.
For people who are not familiar with being a performer,
Dropping in?
yes, it is important to sort of
Explain what that is.
explain
Yes.
what that means. And I will tell it, and you tell them, and I'll...
So for me, dropping into a character means to fully give yourself permission to experience and feel what that character would feel and would experience. It's not necessarily method acting. It's more of a giving yourself permission and relaxing into the role so that I'm no longer worried about, oh no, I'm about to cry on stage because I'm supposed to with what I'm
say
seeing.
this line just quite right or whatever.
Right. I don't want to worry about Shemika. Shemika's about to do an ugly cry and gonna look, unattractive on stage. It's Mrs. Muller is about to cry about what is happening with her son and doubt the parable, and so I'm giving myself permission to fully embrace being that character in that moment, in that role, and not be worried about how Shemika looks because they are looking at the character.
So when you say giving, yes. For me, it's very much the same. And when I say giving permission to myself, right, what it means in my body, there is a point where it's actually generally fairly on in the process. People who know me as a performer know that when I'm in it, I'm in it. But once there's a portion of developing the character. You develop the character, you figure out who they are, what their motivations are, what their fears are, etc. How they look, how they walk.
Yes.
What kind of sweets are they into?
Mm-hmm.
Those sort of nuanced details are important. And then, for me, once I figure out, I know, how many wipes this person does after a bowel movement, right?
Oh,
That's what I get all the way into it, right? So that when I'm on stage,
That's a
that's
turn.
a little graphic, but listen.
I was not prepared for that one, but yes, sir. Listen, every performer has their own method and their own journey.
So that when I'm on stage, I'm not worried about, do people believe me as this person, right? I know my wife's. To put it crassly, I know, but this is who I am.
Listen, I can put one bloomer on one leg at a time. That's as far as I'm gonna go.
I'm a guy who jumps into my bloomers 2 legs at a time.
I see that.
And so once I know that about the character, I can fully say, okay, I'm in this person. I'm a person who does 7 wipes, and then I'm what do you call it? I'm obsessive about it. So that when I'm out of it, when I come out of it, that's not me. That's not who I am. So I'm able to sort of make very particular distinctions.
Yes.
To sort of say, hey, this is me. This is not me.
For me,
not whites in particular.
Right.
That's just an example.
For me, a lot of times it's when I put on the costume. When so like there are, and I have specific, even though I have multiple pieces that I may use repeatedly, there's a specific, this skirt and this jacket is Harriet.
Yes.
Now this jacket and this skirt might be Mary Fields, or this skirt and this shawl might be Sojourner Truth, but when I put on that jacket and that skirt and I become Harriet, well now you all gonna have to be quiet on the way to we head down to that oak tree so they can't hear us. And then once we cross it, we're gonna get down to the river and we're gonna go through the river underneath the water. Don't worry about your hair getting wet because we don't want them dogs to smell you, because when you go through the river, it's gonna wash off the scent because the dogs gonna be after you. But I've been doing Harriet Tubman for 20 years now, so just sliding right into her voice is very easy.
Right? A couple things. This is gonna be super long, but right, there is a part of, and I think this is a meaty part of the craft. There is round tricks. I'm sorry. Out of water. There is a part of it that, for me, there are certain things that I do to get into whatever the character is. For me, a part of it is the walk. A big part of it is, to your point, a part of it is the costume, right? But for people who know, you're a costumer, so this may be different for you. But for people who are performers, you don't get your costume until almost right before the show. So I can't rely. To me, I can't rely on.
I create music. I create my costumes, but also, so if I'm going to an event, even if I'm going as Harriet, and I've been doing Harriet for 20 years, I have a playlist.
Yes.
So I have
another.
so
How do you
it's
get
another
into
way.
it?
So I have a musical playlist
Mm.
that I play as I'm driving to either my show or whatever event, so that I can get into that mindset to help me really, really focus on who am I portraying, the time period that I'm portraying.
Do you have
the
time period specific music, or I mean, depending on the time?
Not
It was
not
just
always.
a message of music.
It's just a message of music, but also a lot of my performances and figures are pre-Civil War.
Mm.
So that particular playlist that I have, it sounds blackness. There's a couple of other songs that it ties into that. It's very Negro spiritual heavy,
Okay.
African music, choral arrangements that help me just really think about the environment and the time period and the era that the ancestors that I'm portraying lived in. If I'm doing something more than civil rights era, I might listen to Mahalia Jackson, who's also one of the women that I'm
Who does
portraying.
love Mahalia?
Right.
Some
So,
people, but whatever.
right, but and they're wrong. But
Say that.
but it's just it helps me get into a place of respect for them and
Reverence. Yes.
and a place of
Mhm.
of remembering what is the mission, what is the goal, what is my objective for this event, what do I want the audience to come away from, how do I want them to view this person that either maybe they thought of one way and had that thought completely wrong, or had never heard of them altogether. How do I fully embody them so that they feel that they have actually met Mahalia Jackson, Sojourner Truth, Mary McLeod Bethune,
Yeah.
Mary Fields.
So, we are coming up on time. I probably will do a bonus snippet about Nikki just because I feel compelled to, but I keep hitting the mic. The last thing I want to sort of do the
Total
thing-
encapsulation.
Yes, there you go. Is like I said, a call to action. It's this idea that I'll say it this way. I don't want to frame you in my own lens, but I'm going to frame you in the lens that I see you. And
Okay.
part of the reason that I brought you on is that you are such a dynamic and powerful sort of force, both in the DMV and DC Maryland Virginia community, but also just in my life. You've been such a constant source of inspiration and somebody that I look to be like, this person is doing the damn thing as a Black woman, as a mother, as somebody in my age bracket, right? And I applaud you both for what you're doing for like Black women and Black history, but also for yourself. So, my last question is, before we wrap, there's so many of my listeners, both abroad and here, particularly in America, who want to tell their stories. Black women in particular, who feel like, "Ah, this girl is gorgeous, and she is like out here doing, just she's so educated and so like poised and so refined. I just want to tell the story about whatever that happened to me. And one of the things I said on previous episode, this is me saying this now, is that we should all be acting as if we are our own ancestors, because we are. We are going to be somebody's ancestors at some point,
Yes.
and I see you very much as my. This lady is out here being an ancestor. So,
Yes.
not in a old way,
Right.
like in a like, I would be proud to look back and be like, wow, that was my ancestor who did that. So my question to you is there any um, wisdom, conventional or otherwise, that you would give to women, Black women in particular, to help tell their stories?
Write it down.
Right there.
Write it down. Even if you don't know what it is you want to write, find a thread puller and talk to them and just talk about what's in your head and what's in your heart. When I first put on that pot on my head as Johnny Appleseed 20 years ago, I had no idea. The story was not even a thought. The story didn't come to be a thought, a character, a pun until around 2017, 2018.
17 years later.
17 years later.
Yeah.
And because that was divine inspiration. I give all honor and glory to God because I am not that smart. But I like puns, but it's just do it.
Yeah. Start.
Just start. Tell somebody what you want to do.
This is what I'm starting right now.
Somebody who is going to hold you accountable like Nikki did for me. Because I told her, I said, all right, fine, I'll do it one day. And she kept badgering me and kept badgering me. Said, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And then I finally decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it out as a stage play. So I asked her to be my director. And she said yes. And then she moved on. And so now Ricky Lacewell is my new director. And they are my outside eyes in and help me make things better. Help me not be Shemika in those moments, to be Harriet or to be Sojourner or to be Bessie. And I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate their wisdom, their support, their love, their encouragement, their brutal honesty at times.
Yeah, that's
Find you good friends.
Yeah. So
people who love you and who support you and who see in you more than you see. Because Ricky's Confidence Theatrics, Ricky told me a long time ago that I was a character actress. And I wasn't ready to hear it at the time. And it hurt my feelings. And she and I talked about this. It hurt my feelings at the time because I wanted to be a leading lady. And, I mean, I was a little older to be an honest lady, even though I looked young enough. But she said, no, you're a character actress. And then she kept casting me in character roles where I had to be quirky little lovely characters.
Yes.
But she saw something in me that I didn't see yet in myself, that I wasn't ready to see. And now I'm a myriad of characters. And I love that. And I bring it up to her often. And I tell her thank you often because my parents are amazing supporters of me. And they wish they could come to everything. And when I have a show, they fly into town. They're my parents.
Yeah, right.
My children are amazing supporters. I asked my children once, if you want to talk about the children, I asked my children if I ever embarrassed them coming to school dressed up as these different historical figures. And they said no. They said that they learned more from me than they did from their history classes about Black women and Black history. They said that their friends would tell them, your mom has the coolest job. Or they would see me leaving the house in a costume. Where's your mom going today? She's so cool. So they were very supportive then while they were at school. I was coming to their classes. They're very supportive of me now, trying to help me get onto social media that I don't know anything about.
Not that you know nothing.
A little bit. But they're my family.
Yeah.
And they're going to
be there.
They're going to be there regardless.
Yeah.
But when you have those, and when you have those friends who are in the community, who are in the performing arts, who can objectively, not that my family can't look at me objectively, but they have a different perspective. And when you got that one friend who's gonna be like, I see Shemika. I see Shemika. Stop being Shemika. That's what I mean. So you need to find those friends who's going to give you the 100% truth, but still has your back.
So,
and still has your back.
One. Actually, these are in no particular order. One, write it down.
Yes.
2, start. These are no particular order.
Right. 3, right? Friends.
3 is to get you some good friends, your squad who are going to tell you, your honest friends who are going to tell you. And then 4, just believe in yourself. I would say
Yes.
just believe in yourself.
Step out on faith.
So,
Nobody can do what you do the way that you do it. And that's something that I've learned and embraced. There might be 500 other women out there, black, white, or whatever, who portray women in history, who may have a one-woman show. And that is their show. And that is their costumes. And that is their journey. And I applaud every one of them. Because, as the Journey True said, their pint don't take away from my quart.
Absolutely.
Their pint don't take away from my quart. My quart don't take away from your pint. So, and my daughter even said it recently. She told me, she said, Mom, nobody else can do Miss Story like you because you are Miss Story. So if you want to do Uncle Bill and Bob Jack, whatever.
Listen, no, wait. Do not wait a minute. It's like Uncle Billy Bob Jack. Listen, we're running. Wait a minute. Let me just do this one last thing because we're going to run out of time. The last thing that I will do is I want to make sure that my listeners and my viewers, whichever they are, know how to book you. How do we book Miss Stories Living History? What does that look like? Tell us.
So listen, because I am not fully on social media like that. You can find me on Facebook at Ms. MS Stories STORY''S Living LIVVI. LIVING, not 2 V's, only 1 V. History, HISTORY. And you can send me a message, or you can find me on Facebook at Shemika Renee. That's SHEMIKARENEE. See, I know how to spell my own name. And you can send me a message that way. There are many options. I can perform in as large of a space as a full stage, or as small as this little table right here.
Do you bring your own props?
I bring my own props, my own costumes. You can do a full 2-hour performance with lights, sounds, etc. We also have the pocket show option where I bring basically a tablecloth full of different costume pieces, and Miss Story will transform right before your eyes from being Miss Story to Harriet Tubman and Bessie Coleman and all points in between.
Thank you for that. As I said at the top of the show, this has been a long time coming, but also my great honor to just have this conversation with you. We touched on a bunch of things. We did a few deep dives, but listen, we'd be here for 5 hours.
We would. And if I didn't have to
listen, you got some out. We're gonna have you back.
Absolutely.
Or I'm gonna have you back. And thank you. Just thank you. And listen, come give me a hug.
Thank you for having me. Oh, I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. All right. And this has been another episode of So Here's the Thing. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, what have you, and look on Apple Podcasts and listen for another episode soon. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
shut up, dope, 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 shut up.